Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, in my travels as usual, I'm going to talk about another neglected movie. I mean, the first one was Bulletproof Monk. Really a fantastic martial arts movie. Probably one of the best ever made. It was exciting. It was fun. It had some good philosophy into it. It had good looking babes in it. I mean, it had everything in a movie that you really want, and not just silly, bloody fighting. Flush. You know, it's typical with the martial arts, mixed martial arts people, that entire crowd of gym rats that apparently are too poor and too ignorant really to do anything. None of these movies do well. And we wonder why we don't have TV series or serious martial arts in general. A lot of these people pine away at the loser Bruce Lee, who made some really bad movies, and who did not invent or design MMA fighting. He was not the first one, and he was probably not even close to it. Now, I'm going to do a whole video on that, but, you know, people need to wake up. We keep living in urban legends and having wrong and misinformation. We're never going to get anywhere. Bruce Lee was a fantastic martial artist. We don't really know what he could have done because of the fact that he didn't live long enough. But as usual, when we look at people and over time, and it's amazing how many people still admire him and follow him. We're talking about almost 50 years now. But what it comes out with most people is he was a dude like anybody else, had all sorts of personal problems, and really wasn't the wise Asian guy that he was playing. He was a drug-taking whoremeister with little philosophy and understanding, and certainly wasn't a mystical guy. Unfortunately, but you know, we shouldn't keep false gods in front of us, just like all the false gods that are in all these fake religious books that people follow by the billions. Okay, moving on from there. But you know, this is supposed to be interesting stuff. You want, it was good, move on, you hillbilly monkeys. So let's move on to this particular movie. Now, this was a fantastic movie made in the old ninja styles by some of the top people in the industry. First of all, the guy who produced Matrix and the guys who wrote Matrix and produced it as well produced this. I don't know how many people know of him or his name, but Joel Silver is a great producer. Everything he gets involved in is slick and well done. He produced, or was one of the people to produce, The Matrix. This was also produced by the Wachowski, which are now sisters. They got involved with it. So the screenplay was by the famous J. Michael Straczynski. I could never pronounce this guy's name. And Matthew Sand. Okay? It was also produced by, adding into the production list, a Grant Hill. It starred which is kind of an odd pick, but I think it was a smart pick, considering how terrible this film did. A Korean kind of pop star named Rain, who certainly looked good, but is unlikely had any kind of martial arts skills. But, you know, everything is not done by the star. The reason the guy is there is to attract people, attract women, attract whatever, and it worked because the grosses in Korea were pretty high for this film that barely made its money back. So basically, he was a boy band star from South Korea. Apparently has no martial arts background. That probably hurt the film with a lot of the gym-headed goofballs. Let me punch them, man. Martial arts people. You don't support anything anyway. There's no martial art movies to speak of. All the stars have to make $5 million films like Van Damme is reduced to. All his films he makes for $5-6 million. That's all they can get. And nobody else makes anything as well. And this isn't just now. I mean, Chuck Norris had to go to TV because none of his movies could make it or be supported. Nobody goes to these films, plain and simple. They never have and never will. The fantasy that Bruce Lee would have been a movie star is in another reality. Let's enter the fake martial arts reality where people actually participate. Now, martial arts does seem to be big. I don't know. It seems like everybody's training in martial arts. And apparently schools must be popular, even though it's very hard to make a living there. How many students can you have and train them? You certainly can't train a stadium full of people in martial arts. So the whole idea is you have to train 20, 30 people. So it's a dead-end career unless you're doing other things. But let's also get into what was very interesting about it. Now, this film was actually released in 2009. It cost $40 million to make. It only grossed $61 million, of which $38 million came from the United States, which should tell you why this didn't do well. That's where most of the money came from. Oddly, even though it had an Asian star, it had a bunch of Asian stars, and had the greatest martial artist of all time, bar none, who's still alive and has proven himself, and who is the originator of Miss Martial Arts. Mixed. Who is that, may you say? Who's the dude? Sho Kosugi. Sho Kosugi is the guy, the famous ninja guy, who is 75 now, has 2 kids in the industry, and who are trained in ninjutsu and all the other styles, and we'll get to that in another lecture. But the greatest guy who everybody ignores. They want to drugger dude because he did bad movies and jumped around like a monkey and beat chicken. We bite your feet with my beak. Like his great English, his really poor English speaking that Bruce Lee was known for. Okay, so moving on to real martial artists. He was in it. I'm not sure how many other people, as he said. Unfortunately, the star was not. But the bottom line is when you put martial arts people in there, you hurt your audience because people in the real world don't know them. And then say, that's just a puncher and a kicker, and they don't really want to go see it. If The Matrix had a martial artist star in it, it wouldn't have been successful. Plain and simple, just like Bruce Lee would have never been successful. Nobody goes to martial arts movie, and here we are 50 years later. They're still not doing that. So it's really sad that nobody, except basically Von Damme, who can somehow get his $6 million to make these very low-level movies, even though I find them to be pretty good considering they're so cheap. Pound of Flesh is a great movie. Check that out. So the whole idea is that got the top people in this. Dark Castle Entertainment, Legendary Pictures, and Silver Pictures. They went in and put a lot of time and money into this. $40 million's worth. Made a very slick film in a artistic old Japanese fashion where they used to have, gobs of blood bags. And that's part of the effect of this. The very over-the-top bleeding and cutting heads off and all the other things. But this is what the traditional Japanese movies had. So they made it in that style, and I think it's very good when you're mimicking. The problem is it gets to be a little bit too cartoony, but that's what the Japanese like, and that's the kind of films that they make. So looking at all that, and I'm not going to go, the problem is the story, it's against his evil trainer, and he fights against him who is terrorizing Sho Kosugi. So it's Rain against him, and it's, the typical plots. But, that's what all martial arts movies are in general, and a lot of pictures in general. It's all about revenge, retribution for being treated bad by an evil person, and the film is extremely well photographed, well done. The acting is pretty good. All the fight scenes are excellent. So this is a great film I just happened to stumble on I believe it was Netflix. And as I said, this is now very old. You're talking about 13 years old now. So this is a long time ago, and you won't see another one of these because it didn't do well.
I gotta go kick something. I'm a martial artist. Can't go support anything. This guy's nobody. Where's the drug addict?
So the whole idea is that this is the kind of stuff that goes on. And internationally, this did very poorly, particularly all through Asia, which you find strange. It made $3 million in Korea, which really brought the budget or the gross of this film up. The rest of Asia did pretty poorly. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if the film was out there, but certainly here's a fantastic, well-made film. Has all the elements you like, particularly I've been a big fan of the ninja films from the 80s, and this really gets into that. It doesn't have a screaming chicken guy with his shirt off, but... and of course, that was probably their error. You got to remember who these films are watched by. So the whole idea is that this was a great film, just like Bulletproof Monk, which is way, way too sophisticated for the
Punches and did he say something philosophical? How do you spell philosophical? FIPPZ. Yeah, where's something to punch?
So the whole idea is that this is the sad reality out there. So, I hear all these martial arts people talk about Bruce Lee and what a great, he was a philosopher. Yeah, give me some more dope, man. So the whole idea is that all the stuff that goes with these Suto images, and he was very smart, and he played the game well and got a lot of success in an industry where there was no success. There were no martial arts movies. We had one TV show that lasted a piddling 3 years, and that was it. Plain and simple. Nothing. There were series that followed it, because The Master, etc., with actually the guy who was in that was a top martial artist and other stores. Matter of fact, Sho Kosugi was in The Master. It lasted 12 episodes. Thanks for supporting everything out there, punches and kickies. So the whole idea is we get back into this ridiculous area of martial arts that nobody cares about. It seems to be an individual pursuit in every single way, and certainly that entire audience supports nobody. So, here again is somebody put a lot of time and energy into this, and it got nowhere. This was distributed by Warner Brothers, so you can't say it wasn't distributed all that well, even though it goes down to what did they do with the film, not necessarily if they had the capacities or not. They certainly had the capacities. The story, you could say, well, it's pretty traditional, but all these stories are traditional. You go there with a basic story and you want to see people get their heads cut off and you want to see fighting. That's what it's all about. And there's a little audience for that. If you don't put in more in there than that, you kind of lose the audience. And there was a little bit more there, and as I said, this was extremely well done by the producers of this, who are very much into this and have produced great films. So here we go yet again, people. But I highly recommend this. It's Ninja Assassin. 2009, I believe this is. I just watched it. I think it was Netflix, but I'm not sure. So you can find this out there. You can watch it for free. And of course, if you're a martial artist, we know you won't do that. So the whole idea is that great film. Check that out. Check out Bulletproof Monk, which I think is even a better film because there's a little more interestingness to it. It goes more into a philosophical thing. It talks about much more mysticism. While this film does have a lot of political overtones of political corruption, child endangerment, and the impact of violence on society. So they do weave a little bit in there, but I really didn't find anything overly profound there. And I think that's probably where they lost a lot of people. Secondly, that Japanese style of over blood, where blood shoots everywhere, And of course, it does when you really get into stuff, but not to the level that the Japanese do it with just blood everywhere, like just pouring gallons of blood everywhere. Now, people in regular Western films, they fall to the ground and nothing comes out of them because this is too traumatic. Let's not see the real world. So the whole idea, this goes over the top, as the Japanese are known for, and has that style. But the fighting, particularly sword fighting, the ninja battles, the characters are all excellent and a great fun film. And for 98 minutes, you can't really beat this in terms of that kind of film that's fun. I wouldn't be looking for too much deep messages here. Retribution, the bad kind of daddy thing, which of course isn't that what Star Wars was about, is a little bit overdone here. I think it could have been done better philosophically. But, we're not looking for philosophic beliefs here. I mean,
You got punches and kicks. Where the action? Oh yeah, I know better. I know how to use a sword. After all, I got one for $50 in Walmart. Oh yeah, it's a great tool. I know how to use it.
this is your typical meat-headed martial arts monkey that goes out there. So this is just yet again, and it bothers me because of the fact that martial arts like to be so high on the hog, and they support absolutely nobody. So here's your chance. If enough people watch this on Netflix, you could get a series or even another chapter of this particular ninja type films. And, people talk about the ninja stuff and they talk about how great Sho was, but the bottom line is those were made in the 1980s, and I always thought there were much more. There's like 4 films. That's it. And he hasn't done alike. The greatest martial artist of all time, Sho Kosugi, and everybody ignores him. Well, they look at drug addict, sex fiend, fake dude, Bruce Lee. Although he was a skilled martial artist, this guy left nothing. Well, you leave a guy like Sho sitting there doing nothing for 60 years. He's 75 now. He's still alive. He lives in Los Angeles. And you ever hear him mentioned? It's amazing how you don't hear him mentioned anywhere. I wonder why that is. He moved to Los Angeles in 1969. So, as I said, I'm going to cover that more in the next video.